5:30 p.m. and I will call to order the September 16, 2019 meeting of the MISD Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. Our first agenda item is a moment of silence followed by the pledge to the U.S. and Texas flag. Before beginning the moment of silence, I'd first like to introduce to everyone the student who will lead us in those pledges. That student's name is Lee High School junior Faith Osman. Faith is captain for the Lee Air Force Junior ROTC. Faith is a member of the Robotics Chaos team at Lee High School. She plans on participating in first technical challenge competition with robotics and is currently the only female programmer on the team. Faith recently completed the Cadet Leadership course at Howard Payne University, where she earned the Cadet Leadership Award. In addition, Cadet Osman was awarded the Achievement Medal for significant achievements during the unit's HHQ inspection. In May 2019, Faith earned the American Legion General Military Excellence Award, a National Air Force Junior ROTC level award for outstanding leadership, discipline, character, and citizenship. Cadet Osman has also been spearheading the startup of a new Junior ROTC archery club at Lee. In addition to ROTC, Faith is taking Algebra 2, Physics 1, Spanish 2, and English 3. To better prepare herself for her college aspirations, she is also taking STEM Research and Design, where they focus on robotics. Faith plans on attending college, where she can specialize in robotic engineering. Afterwards, she plans to join the Air Force or Navy to pursue an aviation career. Cadet Faith Osman will lead us in a moment. Thank you. First, join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Cadet Osman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Cadet Osman. We wish you the very best on your academic career. All right. Item Agenda 2, presentation, recognition, awards, announcements. A, Texas Education Agency School Distinction Designation Recognitions. Ms. Rivera, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Davis, fellow trustees, Dr. Kell. I'm going to give our campuses just a few minutes to kind of transition toward the front. We have 7 campuses that we're so excited to honor tonight for distinction designations. As those campuses kind of make their way to the front, just for the audience, campuses that receive an accountability rating of A, B, C, or D overall are eligible to earn distinction designations. They are awarded for achievement in several areas and are based on the performance relative to a group of campuses similar in type, size, grade span, and student demographics. A campus earns a distinction designation if it is in the top quartile of its comparison group. So I'm happy tonight to be able to honor 7 of our campuses. The first we'd like to honor is Early College High School. Early College High School earned a distinction in academic achievement in English language arts and reading, comparative academic growth, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps. If the board members don't mind coming in front, we'd love for these folks to be able to shake your hand and be recognized for this tremendous work at the campus level. So our first campus coming across is Early College High School. Our next next campus to be recognized is Lee Freshman High School for earning a distinction designation in science. Our next campus to earn a distinction designation is Midland Freshman High School in science. Next, we'll move on to our elementary campuses. The first elementary campus to be recognized is Bush Elementary. Bush Elementary earned 5 distinction designations. We're happy to celebrate them in academic achievement in English language arts and reading, academic achievement in science, comparative academic growth, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps. Next, we'll be recognizing Carver Elementary. Carver Elementary earned 4 distinction designations: academic achievement in English language arts and reading, academic achievement in math, academic achievement in science, and post-secondary readiness. Carver Elementary. Ms. Lopez will accept on their behalf. So we miss Carver tonight. The next elementary school to be recognized is Santa Rita Elementary School, earned a distinction designation in science. Santa Rita. And then we're happy to honor South Elementary School for a distinction designation in science for South Elementary. Thank you for allowing us to publicly recognize the distinction designations earned by these campuses. Hard work every day, all day long, is happening at these campuses and others. We can't wait to celebrate more at this time next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera, and thanks to all the campuses. Congratulations on your work, on your awards for all your hard work. We very much appreciate it. A couple of announcements too. I'm pleased, I believe we have at least 2 Midland College students here in the teacher preparation program. I think we were expecting TJ Wade and Leslie Garcia. If you're here and any other students are here, please stand up. We'd like to recognize you and thank you for your efforts. Who else came?
I'm Leslie Spears.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie. Thanks for coming.
Leslie Spears.
Great. Thank you. All right. Well, we appreciate you engaging in that program. Also, I should mention, we're missing 2 board members this evening. Mr. Kennedy is out of the country on a family trip for a long scheduled trip, and Mr. Marquez, he's with his father who underwent heart surgery today, so our prayers and thoughts are with them. Now turning to public forum, item number 3, we have 3 persons signed up to speak to us this evening. The first is James Hunter, representing his son Luke. Topic is his son being emotionally assaulted by teachers, and the teachers recording his son on their cell phones, and the superintendent refusing to return his calls. Mr. Hunter, welcome. Yes, please, so we can hear you better, and so everyone else may also.
Yes, sir, ma'am. In August, my son was in dyslexia class. He told the dyslexia teacher he had to use the restroom. Now, my son does have some issues medically as well, to where he does use the restroom pretty frequently. He had not used the restroom in that class at all that day. Dyslexia teacher refused to let him use the restroom, but by her own words asked, "Luke, can you hold it?" He told her no. Well, she explained to me and my wife she would not let him use the restroom because there's only 10 minutes left in class, and dyslexia time is, so important. Well, he sat there and urinated on himself. So 3 days later, while in special ed class, he's in special ed class, and he tells the teacher, "I have to use the restroom." She would not let him use the restroom. He sat up there. She said that he was shaking, saying, "I have to use the restroom, I have to use the restroom." Urinated on himself again. And my son is about to be 9 years old. He has not had an accident of any sort since he was 2 years old when he was potty trained. And there's no reason why a teacher should sit up there and have my son urinate on himself, especially in a dyslexia class or a special ed class. No student deserves that. The second time he urinated on himself, the teacher had been sitting up there recording him on her personal cell phone. We went through that last year with a different teacher and told the principal, "We do not give you permission to record my son with a personal cell phone. If you want cameras in the classroom to record him, that is fine. But too many people have access to people's cell phones, and cloud accounts get hacked. My son should not be taken to that extreme." The principal not only sits up there and condoned it, but she also encouraged the teacher to sit up here and record my child, saying that it's a learning tool and that you can sit up here and you can see how your child acts. My son told me he has been recorded at least 5 times this year. Not one time has my wife or myself been contacted to view these. I believe it is because last year I told them, "Do not record my child." My child, he does suffer from attention hyperactivity, ADHD. He cannot take the medicine because it messes with his stomach. This year we attempted to try his medicine just this last week. Side effects of the Statera, it's no amphetamine or nothing like that, is you have stomach cramps, you have mood swings, you're irritated beyond belief. Sits up there, tells the teacher, "I have to use the restroom in class," goes to the restroom, comes back. This is in a special ed class. Same teacher who made him urinate on himself the second time. Tells her, "Miss, I really need to use the restroom." She tells him, "I don't believe you. You've already gone." He says, "Well, sometimes it feels like now I use the restroom and it's only like I only get half of it out." She refuses to let him use the restroom. I instructed my son, if a teacher will not let you use the restroom, do not urinate on yourself. You get out of that class, you go to the office. First you stop at the restroom, have them call me. There is no reason for my son or anyone else's son or daughter to be emotionally abused like that. The abuse he's suffering from these teachers is going to carry on with him for the rest of his life. And not only that, but if another kid sees him urinate on themselves, next I'm going to be getting calls that my son's in fights at school because kids are making fun of him for that. I've tried going through the whole range of everyone I can contact at Midland ISD. I have 12 accounts where I have sat up here and called the superintendent's office. I have asked the principal at Yarborough Elementary to have the superintendent call me. I have not received one call back. My attorney tells me, you can sue or you can go to TEA. I'm not the suing type. I'm not trying to get everybody's jobs, nothing like that. I just want children to be treated the way they deserve to be treated and get the education they deserve. And I know I've gone over my 3 minutes, but my son is also not receiving his accommodations that he is supposed to receive. He has not been read his quizzes or his tests, which that right there, that's against law. You have teachers send home his corrections homework. One of the instructions on his disability paperwork is student should be made to where the teachers know he understands the work. The last test that was sent home for corrections, he wrote in the back in big letters, "I do not understand this." Not one special ed teacher or one classroom teacher or anyone at that school looked at that paper and said, "This child is struggling and this is a cry for help from a child asking, please, I do not understand the work." I'm just asking, please, if someone could please just do my son a solid, do the rest of the kids in Midland a solid, and make sure that the accommodations that they are being given for their disabilities, they actually receive. And please, quit emotionally abusing my son. I appreciate y'all's time.
All right, Mr. Hunter, thank you.
I just want to make sure, I'm sorry. You said Yarborough?
Yes, sir. And if you want the names of the people, I got it right here. If you want them, I won't call them out loud, but I'll hand them to you.
All right, Mr. Hunter, thank you for coming forward. State law prohibits us from discussing a matter on the agenda, but we can ask questions, and as Mr. Trischetti confirmed, this is at Yarborough Elementary, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you,
All right, next speaker, Mr. John McAfee. Topic, the bond. Mr. McAfee, welcome.
Good evening to the board, and I guess acting superintendent. I come to you, first of all, I do have the bond at the heart of my issue, but I also want to commend whoever your director of science or science coordinator is in this particular district. And maybe I heard it wrong, but I counted 6 out of these 7 award distinction coming from science. Whoever that person is, do everything you can to keep them in this district. That's all I'm going to say. I'm responding to an article that was in yesterday's paper, and I'm very, very sure it cannot have any effect on what has already been approved for the bond date and that type thing and what can be in the bond. But I don't want the public to think that having 3 high schools with 2,400 students is going to diminish the high schools themselves. I'm saying that because the emphasis kind of indicated that athletics would be at the forefront of making a particular decision, and from my standpoint, a total child should be at the forefront of why we make decisions for this particular district. But just for some information, if one would check on last year, both schools in 6A Division II were under 2,400 students. Longview had around 2,280, I think, and Beaumont Westbrook, they may have been right at 2,400. But also, it's not a shame to have 5A schools at the bottom. Amarillo has 1 5A school, and I don't think that football team is suffering. Tascosa, I'm sorry, 6A school, that football team is not suffering. But I would rather have 3 high schools where children get more opportunities to participate in more activities and more programs than I would to have 2 high schools, 2 large high schools, mega high schools, where it's limited and children are left out and not get a chance to have a total high school experience, whether it be athletics, fine arts, any other particular program, career, technology, and that type thing. And I just wanted to respond to that when the committee made that recommendation, those points were brought up during the course of the year and a half that I served on the committee, but we were looking at the total student experience. And so I hope no one will be swayed by that, nor anyone in the community, that we want everyone to have a chance to participate. And I totally support the bond. I totally support the concept of everything that the facility committee recommended to the bond and that the board approved. And I just want to make that particular point known. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. McAfee. Our last speaker, Sarah Burleson. Topic, bond. Ms. Burleson, welcome.
Hello. Dr. McAfee, thank you very much. It was right on. Thank you, school board, for moving forward with the bond proposal for the future. Midland desperately needs secondary facilities. Regardless of whether or not we have children left in the schools, it's imperative that we come together for the children of this community at this time. I've witnessed firsthand that facilities do matter. Traveling the state for many tournaments, I've been in many, many new facilities, and the attitude of the staff and the students is different. They're proud of their campus, and good things are happening there. We have our students in antiquated facilities that have facelifts, but it's still an old building. Missing from our high schools are state-of-the-art facilities, on-campus sports facilities for 9th through 12th grade to accommodate all students, technology readily available in every classroom and common area. Newer campuses feel open and accepting, not closed. We have reached capacity and we're continuing to grow. Gone are the days of Loop 250 being a 2-lane road, Target being a field of cotton, the only road to Odessa being Highway 80 and Interstate 20, traveling to Dallas and not hitting traffic until you hit Sweetwater. All those show the growth Midland has seen over the last 25 to 30 years, and yet we have only added one secondary junior high school in that same time period. It is time to put the school mascots aside and have a unified Midland to vote for our future. It is our children's education that matters in the long run. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Burleson. Give that to Ms. Gale, please. All right, that concludes public forum. Now, item number 4 is our public hearing on the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, otherwise known as FIRST. Ms. Moss, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, trustees,
Well,
Dr. Kell.
I'm sorry, let me call to order the hearing at 5:51 p.m. Go ahead.
Thank you. Do you have the presentation on? Here it comes. Okay. The Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 109, requires the district to present a financial management report providing information to the public concerning the district's financial rating. The Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, often referred to as FIRST, as Mr. Davis said, was developed in 1999 in response to Senate Bill 875. Its goal is to achieve quality performance in district financial management based on indicators developed by the Commissioner of Education. The annual financial report and PEIMS reporting data are used to establish the rating. An A to F scoring system is used, 90 to 100 for A, 80 to 89 for B, and 60 to 79 for C, and F for scores below 60. A district receives a rating of F for a no response to indicators 1, 3, 4, or 2A. This slide shows some of the areas addressed within the 15 indicators used to rate the district. I'll briefly go over each of the indicators with the result for each one. Indicator numbers 1 through 5 are rated as passed or failed. MISD passed on all 5. The first indicator references whether or not the annual financial report was submitted to our governing agency within 30 days of the required date. MISD submitted the report on November 16 of 2018, and it was due prior to December 28th. Indicator 2 also refers to the annual financial report. It has 2 parts. Part A requires the receipt of an unmodified opinion. Part B requires any identified material weaknesses. MISD received an unmodified opinion with no material weaknesses identified. Indicator 3 was the school district in compliance with the payment terms of all debt agreements at fiscal year end. MISD's debt payments were made within the requirements. Indicator 4 is in regards to payments to government agencies. Reports were submitted timely to governmental entities. The Texas Education Agency did not score Indicator 5 this year. This was due to most districts in the state being impacted negatively as a result of GASB, or the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, changes to the reporting of other post-employment benefits. TEA is currently working on how they will monitor this indicator in the future. The next 10 indicators are scored with a possible 10 points each. Midland ISD received the maximum points for each of these indicators. The district lost points on indicators 6, 7, and 8 last year. These 3 indicators are directly affected by the district's cash on hand. Our team has worked hard to improve the district's financial position, and this resulted in the district earning 10 out of 10 for these indicators for this rating year. Indicator 6 is the ratio of cash and investments to expenditures. MISD's calculation of 165.8675 resulted in a score of 10. The prior year's calculation was 60.61 with the result of 6 points. Indicator 7, MISD's assets to liabilities ratio was calculated at 3.16, resulting in a score of 10 points. Prior year's calculation was 2.66, resulting in a score of 8 points. Indicator 8, the long-term liabilities to total assets was calculated at 0.5131, resulting in 8 out of 10 points. Last year, and this year's calculation was 0.5131, last year's was 0.6255. Indicator 9 shows that revenues were sufficient to cover expenditures. Indicator 10 shows that resources were sufficient to meet required debt service payments. Indicator 11, the acceptable administrative cost ratio is 8.55%. MISD's administrative ratio is 6.29%. MISD did not have a decline in its ratio of students to staff outside of the acceptable range. Indicator 13 shows that the PEIMS financial data submitted by the district to TEA had a minimal variance in comparison to the data published in the annual financial report. The calculation provided by TEA shows 6.82%, which would have resulted in 0 points. This is due to the change in our fiscal year. The 6.82% resulted from PEIMS data based on a 12-month period being compared to the AFR, or the annual financial report, based on a 10-month period. MISD's annual report indicated no material non-compliance. And the last indicator, MISD did not receive an adjusted repayment schedule due to financial hardship. The calculation of the 15 indicators resulted in 100 out of 100 possible points, a letter grade of A, which equals a superior rating. We are also required to report that the superintendent received no payments for outside consultation. The superintendent and board members received no gifts with a value of $250 or more. For the period ending June 30th, 2018, the superintendent and board travel and other expenses total $44,929.41. There were no business transactions between the district and board members for the reporting period. The superintendent's contract is to be made available during this financial management report. The contract is posted on MISD's website. A copy of this report is available to district parents. Please contact Financial Services Department for assistance. And before I conclude, Mr. Davis, I'd like to say you guys get to hear a lot from me, but tonight I've asked my team to come. This work is a result of their hard work over the past 2 years, and I'd like to introduce them to the board, if I may. We have Carla Martin, who's our Executive Director of Financial Services. Teresa Moore, our Executive Director of State and Federal Programs. Tony Kingman is our Director of Budget. Samantha Blevins is our Director of Payroll. Arturo Valenzuela is our Controller. And Haiti Pena is our Director of Purchasing and Contracts. This is a team that does all the hard work in the background, so kudos to them for what they've done. And that concludes the district financial report. I'll turn it back over to you for the public hearing.
Congratulations, Ms. Moss and your entire team. What an excellent report, an excellent grade, and well earned. Thank you very much for what you do for this district.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone like to come forward and address the board as part of the public hearing on this first report as presented by Ms. Moss? All right, not seeing anyone come forward, we will conclude the public hearing at 6 p.m. Thanks again, Ms. Moss, and to your team. All right, next is our consent agenda items. 5A, our board meeting minutes on page 107 of the meeting packet. 5B is our monthly financials beginning on page 113. 5C, budget amendment on page 125. 5D, monthly expenditures beginning on page 128. 5E, monthly investment report beginning on page 143. 5F, personnel appointments beginning on page 150. 5G, Midland Community Development Corporation, Hillcrest Village, letter of intent, page 155 of the meeting packet. 5H, contracts over $100,000 on page 161. 5I, cooperative purchasing interlocal agreement, page 163. 5J, request for proposal, RFP 18-51, Midland Unified Enrollment Vendor, page 187. 5K, request for proposal, RFP number 18-56, on-call teacher and staff instructional consultant, page 190 of the meeting packet. Board members, are there any of these items, 5A through K, that need to be pulled for any reason whatsoever? 5G, Midland Community Development Corporation, Hillcrest Village letter of intent is pulled. Any other items? All right, hearing none, then items 5A through F and 5H through K will be deemed approved by consent. As to 5G, I understand. Why don't you make clear the reasons why you pulled that one?
Yes, sir. So I need a separate vote, or I would appreciate a separate vote on this, just because the MDC has given dollars to this project, which is very worthwhile, and I'm glad that Mr. Bailey is working to get teacher housing to be a part of that, but I need to officially abstain given my role. And so if the board would approve it outside of the consent agenda, I would appreciate it.
And for the record, and those that are not familiar, why don't you say
I'm
what
sorry,
your role
as Executive Director of the Midland Development Corporation, we are a part of the MCDC Hillcrest Village, and I certainly don't have a vote on the board to dictate funds, but being a part of that organization, it's probably best to eliminate any appearances of impropriety.
Understand.
Thank you, sir.
All right, this now becomes an action item. So moved. Motion by Mr. Bishop. Second by Mr. Murray. Any further discussion? Comments? We too think this is a wonderful thing, and we appreciate the MCDC's efforts in this regard to help provide affordable housing for our teachers. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, it's 4 votes for, with Mr. Trischetti abstaining and Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Marquez absent because they're out of town. All right, moving on to our district report, 6A, Right at School report. The information begins on page 203. Ms. Morton, welcome.
Good evening, President Davis, board members. My name is Felicia Morton. I am the Regional Director for our Right at School Before and After School Care program, and I'm really pleased to be here, so thank you for having us. Let's see, make sure I can figure this one out. Okay, thank you. So I would like to reintroduce our team to you. We do have a couple of our team members in attendance today. We have Amy Shelton is our Senior Program Manager, who unfortunately was unable to be here this evening. We do have Liz Binder and Stephen Palma, who are our area managers and our leadership for our programs in your schools. Myself, Regional Director. We also have Cindy Lawson, who is the Director of School Partnerships, and my team is right back there. So I wanted to reintroduce all of us to you. So thank you for having us. All right, so the biggest purpose for us to be here this evening is I'd really like to share with you a little bit about how we have grown from last year. Last time I was here, we had just started off within your schools, and I was able to share with you a little bit of how our opening had gone and how things were progressing in the schools. And this year I would like to show you a little bit about how we left off for the school year last year and how we're trending this year. What you see in front of you is a enrollment report versus last year versus this year. We're pretty consistent. Last year we enrolled 802 students, this time last year, and then this year we're at 818 students enrolled in all of the programs. The biggest jump that we've seen has been in Travis Elementary, Santa Rita, Great House, and Fannin. There's a lot of information on this slide, but this breaks down exactly how many students that we have in each program. We still currently only have 2 before-school programs, both at Great House and at General Franks, specifically because the need has been there, but not so much in the other programs that we've seen. What I really would like to point out, and something that we've been really focusing on this year, is scholarships. We do have the opportunity to provide 1 scholarship for every 15 students enrolled with Right at School, and we actually at this time have the opportunity to provide 54 scholarships based on our current numbers, and we're currently only doing 8. So what our goal is this year is to really focus on ensuring that we can provide families in need with those 54 additional scholarships in order to provide additional children access to our programs that can benefit from it. One of the things that we're doing in order to make that happen is partnering with the principals and really talking about who they feel could benefit from our program based on conversations and relationships they have with their families, as well as helping to increase attendance based on families staying home because they don't have that aftercare. So we're looking to focus on that throughout the end of the school year. One of the things that we did this year for the first time was summer camp, which was really a great opportunity to be able to provide hands-on learning experiences for the children, both at our campuses as well as off-site at different field trip locations. So last year, or it feels about a year ago, but over summer, we had a total of 293 students that were enrolled in our summer program. We had an average of about 127 students every day in attendance. And then we also did have a what we call a Right Start camp, which was a 2-week period where we opened up on a separate campus for all MISD employees to bring their children to us so that they had time to get ready for the upcoming school year. We had 101 students enrolled in that program this year. Last year we did the same thing for about 75 students. This year we were able to assist more families with that. So this slide I'm actually very proud of. This is our family satisfaction survey. And twice a year we do a survey where we will ask families to provide us feedback about how we're doing, both on a scale of where they rate us, but then also to be able to provide us actual content and feedback. So this time last year we had 175, actually let me rephrase that. In fall of 2018, we had 175 families that participated in our survey. In spring of 2019, we went up to 321, which was really exciting for that additional information from families. We also did increase our overall scores, having increased the amount of people that actually participated, and then also to see the lift in the scoring was really something that we were very excited about. We went from 90% of our families feeling as though their children had fun in our programs, always or most of the time. We went up to 92%. We went down on the only some of the time, and went to 0 for rarely or never, which was really something to be very proud of. Our program staff, they felt, went from 80% to 87% for excellent, and then we also did reduce the amount of okay staff as far as our families were concerned. So we were really excited about that. We do still have that 4% margin for needs improvement, and we're continuing to work on staffing really dynamic individuals for our programs. Some of the feedback that we got out of those surveys. The whole program is a well-oiled machine. The staff are wonderful, and the safety measures in place leave parents not to have to worry about our children. The homework is helpful so the kids can enjoy themselves once at home. RAS has been great for my son. The teachers are mentors to him, and they keep him safe and on track with school and just life in general. We also have gotten some feedback from our principals. As a 16-year veteran campus administrator, Right at School has by far been the most effective and excellent quality of them all. And I appreciate the availability and flexibility of both the RAS teacher and the supervisor. Something that we've also been focusing on is how we can be an extension of MISD, and a couple of different ways that we've really tried to partner with our schools and with our principals to ensure that the students are successful is our learning standards-based curriculum, which is something that we have always done. We also have some new programs this year. They're called Choice Clubs, which are specifically around literacy and different ways to increase literacy development and interest so that the children are more interested in reading and participating in different activities that will also help to expand their literacy. And then, of course, homework support is probably the #1 thing that we hear from families that they're the most concerned about and they feel is the most important. And we have been very diligent in making sure that we are providing that homework support so that the students can get the support that they need and families can feel good about the fact that they can pick their children up after school and not have to worry about getting the additional homework done. Any questions for me?
Questions, board?
All right.
All right, well, I've heard great things about the program. We very much appreciate you being here, and this report comes as no surprise based on the comments I've received. Thank you very much.
Huge compliment. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Morton. All right, next, District Report 6B, Board Goals 2.0 and Constrained Progress Measure 2.2. Ms. Rivera, Ms. Lopez, welcome.
Good evening again, Mr. Davis, fellow board members, Dr. Kell. I am here to report on Annual Target 2.0. If you remember, this is our annual target of our students in grades 3 through 8, passing both reading and math STAR. Our end-of-year target this year was 70%. We are at 57%. You can see the consistent line from last year to this year. So still falling behind that stretch goal. So of course we're not happy with where we are, but we do have some, I feel like, great strategies in place to continue to make progress toward achieving the goal. It's difficult to see where we are and know where we need to be at the end of 2020, which is actually at 75%. So already starting behind is an issue, and we acknowledge that and are transparent in that we know that. Some things that are happening at campuses is, of course, the continued focus on strong Tier 1 instruction. In the academic report, after this report, I'm a frequent flyer tonight, I'll be back up to talk about some of the relay work that we're engaged in. Many of our schools are also involved in a targeted improvement plan development based on either their domain score, overall score, or a D in a domain for this year's performance. We're looking at a totally upgraded system for progress monitoring internally, doing more than just iStation and Imagine Math, looking at lessons passed, looking at reading levels, even above and beyond iStation, looking at district checkpoints and seeing how that's shaping out for Domain 1. Also looking at district checkpoints in regards to Domain 3 for the numbers of kids that are hitting meets and masters, such a huge part of Domain 3. So just more focused progress monitoring throughout the school year and more than just beginning, middle, and end of year, because what we want to do is be sure that we know exactly where our kids are performing so we can intervene at the point where they need intervention and not wait for a target that happens in 9 weeks, 18 weeks, that we're actually able to intervene earlier than that.
While I appreciate the effort to stretch the students and not be complacent and flat, in your expert opinion, years in now, were our stretch goals too stretchy, for lack of a better word?
I think that based on the data that we've been presenting to the board for the past year, we are unfortunately reporting more no's than yeses. I do think when we went into the Lone Star governance work, we were so early, even as a district going into the work, that those work sessions were were very impactful and powerful. I'm not sure that all the guidance and setting them measurable is really kind of where we landed in regards to projecting out those 3-year goals. Even though, to say that, we should still be performing better than we are. So, I mean...
No, I was not giving anyone a pass.
Yes.
The gap continues to widen as the graph gets long.
Right. I think these, at this point...
It's still not the trend we want.
Exactly. I would say these are super stretch goals at this point, but we fully acknowledge, and I proudly represent the teaching and learning team, that we own this data, and so we are putting things in place and trying to coach principals coaching teachers to improve because we want student outcomes to improve. We're also...
Let me
yes.
say one thing on the, as we all know, student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. And setting aside whether the 70% at the end of school year 2019 was a SMART goal, is that acronym, what all it stands for, it's still unquestionably unacceptable to have a flat line from one year to the next without regard to what the target was. And so I trust that the adult behavior programs, or the programs that you've identified and the steps being taken, will affect adult behavior so that we can see an increase, even if it's not 75%, a market increase for next year. Because that's what we're all about, and I know that's what you and your team and what every teacher and principal is all about. We've got to do things differently, though, to increase this from the numbers where they are currently. That is our mission, and I know you accept it and you own it, and I trust that the programs that you've identified will help us do that.
Absolutely. I think our whole approach in the Get Better Faster model, which I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes with Relay, the intense coaching from principal supervisors to principals, from principals to teachers, lead teachers to other teachers in the building. Just this work has been really a mind shift around what are the right levers in place to actually get better faster, because that's what we want to do, and that's what our kids deserve. And this performance is disappointing at best, and so we are doing things differently in this school year to get improved student outcomes because we want the best for our kids.
What systemic problems have you identified that have contributed to the kind of performance that we've seen for the last year?
I think, unfortunately, our reading proficiency is not growing at a pace that it needs to grow, including comprehension, fluency, all the pieces that are in reading. I am excited, though, that with the adoption of the new materials, that's putting more resources in the hands of teachers to be able to deliver that strong Tier 1 instruction, along with monitoring reading levels more regularly than beginning, middle, and end. We have some more progress measures in place that are actually monitoring reading levels on Fountas and Pinnell rather than just the kids reading on or above grade level in Tier 1 I-Station, all the way through the 5th grade. And that historically has been kind of a K2 measure. So we're really excited about those actionable steps being taken to monitor. A lot of our work is also going to be focused around the Effective Schools Framework, which is the framework produced by TEA to really improve schools. And we're really going to be focusing on developing instructional leaders, not just principals, but teacher leaders in the building, looking at those objective-driven daily lesson plans that include formative assessment, and then using those assessments, those formative assessments, summative assessments, to really talk about data-driven instruction. So already a very, I would say, a very different mindset or mind shift in a way that is concrete. Historically, TEA's been think out of the box and do all these crazy things and come up with these ideas. And what I've seen in the past few years in school improvement, TEA has finally said, actually, let's focus on best practices and let's do the things that have been proven to work. And those are the things that we're coaching in schools right now that I know will move the needle for us.
And Mr. Fuller, I'd like to add that I believe as a full district leadership team, we're going to be very much more intentional on monitoring these changes and what the data looks like on a regular pace and having collaborative discussions across all departments in regard to student performance.
Do you see principals in particularly taking more initiative to go in that direction as opposed to being more reserved?
I would say yes, absolutely, but I would defer that to the campus executive directors if they would like to respond.
I have a really telling slide in the next presentation when I come back that's going to show the impact that the leader actually has on academic achievement. So I'm excited to show you that. Any other questions on Annual Target 2.0 before I pass it off to Ms. Lopez for Constraint Progress Measure?
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Ms. Lopez, welcome.
Good evening, Board President Rick Davis, school board members, and Dr. Kale. I'm here to report out on Superintendent Constraint 2, which specifically says that the superintendent will not allow adult convenience or preference to take priority over the academic progress of our students. And so tonight I am specifically addressing Superintendent Constraint Progress Measure 2.2, which indicates that the number of elementary assistant principals that are gaining enroll experience at complex campuses are going to increase from 17 to 23 by the end of the school year 2020. Currently, we have 24 elementary assistant principals with enroll experience at complex campuses. So, therefore, our target for the 2019-2020 school year, which was 23, has been met. Are there any questions?
Can you define complex campus?
Yes, and so, and I do believe I indicated that in your, but yes, for the record. So
it's on the next slide, I think. I think it's on the next slide.
Is it? Okay.
Well, no, go ahead.
No, but I have it here. So essentially we look at, we recalculate this each year, and we look at enrollment, we look at the campus's school rating and the number of years that the campus has been in school improvement. We look at their PEG status, public education grant. We look at the percent of students that fall into the following groups: economically disadvantaged, at risk, African Americans, special education, and English learners. And then we have a calculation system that we use to determine, the top 50% of our elementary campuses who fall within, using this criteria, who fall in that top 50%, and then that is who we consider complex. Any other questions?
No, this is good, lest you think we only scold you when you come up here, is that campus leadership matters.
It does.
Growing our own matters, and it's going to be a part of the way we will achieve academic improvement, and so I'm glad to see that we're getting more assistant principals on campus experience at our complex campuses so that they can have the skills they need to succeed when they become full principals, and in the meantime are successfully contributing as assistant principals. So thank you very much.
Yes. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lopez. All right. Academic update, item 6C. Ms. Rivera, you're back up. Welcome.
I'm back. Thanks for this honor to present this work. Really excited about some of the opportunities that have been afforded us in Midland ISD. I just want to provide some context around the relay work, because relay is going to be a term that you're going to become very familiar with. We are starting a 3-year cohort of trainings through the Relay Graduate School of Education. And so what I want to do tonight is just kind of provide some context that's actually around the work. So this work actually began as a U.S. Department of Education initiative in that they provide federal funds to TEA towards, for them to be directed towards school improvement. And what TEA did was actually put out a call for reputable partners to come in and help lead the work. And they were looking for partners that had highly successful teacher and leader training organizations with proven records and best practices. So TEA selected Relay Graduate School of Education to help partner in the work. And we are lucky enough and fortunate enough in Region 18 to be selected as part of this pilot. So we have 12 schools that are going through this work in Cohort 1. We'll bring on a second set of schools in the next school year and our last set of schools in a third year of this work. This work is really powerful in that TEA has afforded us the opportunity to participate. It's actually at the cost of about $18,000 per person. We have about 60 people going through in Cohort 1, which is actually over $1 million worth of training that has been provided on behalf of TEA for people in our district. So we're really excited to be selected as a pilot.
We've been selected, but somebody else is paying for it.
Yes. The next slide is really telling because people often ask, well, why is it called Relay and what is Relay? And so just for a frame of reference, they use the term Relay because it takes a relay of effective teachers for 3 to 5 years in a row to set up a student for success. So that's where they get the term Relay for the Graduate School of Education. But the #1 factor in student success is absolutely quality instruction. And when you look at this chart, students who have a high-performing teacher for 3 years actually perform 53 percentile points higher than students who have low-performing teachers. And so Relay's mission is actually to train teachers and leaders to build higher capacity so that so students constantly have a high-performing teacher. This next slide is the one that I kind of referenced earlier, and we talk about principals and we talk about leaders. But after quality classroom instruction, the next most important factor impacting student achievement is school leadership effectiveness. And this chart actually shows how much time a principal potentially could spend on day-to-day instruction, which is a disappointing number at 6%. What Relay and Get Better Faster model are teaching us and our principal supervisors and teaching and learning or coaching principals and principals coaching teachers is that we have got to change that mindset and that graphic. And so the training and instructional leadership helps principals prioritize teaching and learning over kind of being that firefighter and putting out fires and management all day. It's kind of changing the mindset of our principals to make sure they're really focused on instructional leadership rather than spending most of their time in management like that chart showed. There are the three biggest pieces, or the 3 highest leverage parts of this Relay model in coaching is on student culture, data-driven instruction, and observation and feedback, which is where our focus is going to be this year with principals and leadership teams in the work. And these founders spent years of studying schools that were considered outliers, which means they were getting incredible results from a non-traditional population, either meaning they were high minority or high economically disadvantaged percentage, and still getting really incredible assessment scores. So these are where our work will lie in 1920, or in these 3 levers. But when we talk about the actual project in Midland ISD, we're in a 3-year grant. These are our first 12 schools that are going through. Those are listed there. I can let you read those. But this work actually started back in June in Dallas, where I traveled with a group of about 55 of our people from these 12 schools to really start getting into the Relay work intensely. More than just a little 8-hour sit sit-and-get kind of session. These were days spent with principals working with their teams, refining systems, practicing coaching roles and responsibilities, scripting professional development plans, and setting up systems that we knew could impact positively when they got back to campus in August. In July and also in June, our executive directors over principals, our campus executive directors, attended intense summer professional development, 6 days actually of coaching, how to coach principals, how to lead data-driven discussions, role-playing, writing exemplars for their scripts to use with principals, so lots of intense training. In July, we actually had the opportunity for our 0-year teachers at these 12 campuses to attend 2 days with a relay trainer here to start laying them up for a successful start in the student culture piece. And one thing I just want to kind of clarify here in student culture, when we think of culture, sometimes we think of it's the way the building feels or the belongingness. And the student culture frame in the relay work, in the Get Better Faster work, is about routines and procedures. So are teachers using a strong voice? Are they using their teacher radar? It's almost like the management side of how we get better faster. And so when I talk culture, that's kind of a shift from a traditional definition of culture. So I think that's one of the hiccups that we've seen when we talk culture in the Get Better Faster world. It's about routines and procedures and on the management side. And then Relay will host 4 intercession trainings, which are 8 days. All of us that attended summer training will then go, it's actually being held locally, so there's no travel costs associated with it. Our first intercession is actually tomorrow. So on the 17th and 18th, we'll be with the Relay team learning more and going to the next step in our learning, so then we can come back and lead the process with our schools. While only 12 schools are in the cohort, I think it's really important to clarify that those aren't the only schools going through the Get Better Faster work. We cannot afford for only 12 schools to be involved in this deep level intentional work with Get Better Faster. So while these 12 schools are in the first cohort, all principals will be getting the coaching through the Get Better Faster model, as well as the data-driven instruction, observation, and feedback. For this to really work, there's some building blocks of growth, and so that's always going to start with strong instruction. It's going to lead into instructional leadership and cultural leadership. Again, that cultural leadership, establishing those systems, being very intentional about a strong start, and we know that these things are going to be what propels us for student growth and achievement. Another reference you'll probably hear as we move forward in the work is about the Get Better Faster trajectory. There's really 2 sides to really coach in the Get Better Faster model. And one is on the management side, which is that strong start that we kind of talked about. And the other side is the rigor trajectory. Are we writing really good detailed lesson plans? Are they tied to formative assessments? Are the exit tickets actually aligned with the learning target and really kind of getting that deep and that focused on the actual instructional work? So when we talk about strong instruction, it's also important to talk about how we're supporting teachers. So we do have high numbers of inexperienced teachers. That's not a Midland issue, although it's high on our radar. It's actually a national issue. And so we're working hard to continue to support our inexperienced teachers, including our long-term subs that are filling in vacancies right now. Like I said earlier, they had the opportunity to attend the 2-day July training with follow-up sessions in September and another follow-up session in October to continue to coach that management side of the trajectory, because when we know that when those systems are solid, then good instruction can start to take place. So it's really important that we establish in the first quarter, at least in the first 30 to 60 days, exactly what that looks like. Do teachers know how to stand tall and use a formal register? Do teachers understand the importance of standing standing in front of the class and knowing what's going on? Do teachers fully understand the impact that it's important to practice your lesson plan before you deliver it on the rigor side? So we're excited about the work that's happening in instruction because it's also allowing us to continually coach our school leaders and encourage our school leaders to coach teachers. The next piece is about the instructional leadership, and these three pieces are really critical in the instructional leadership. I kind of attribute this side to the rigor trajectory, those effective lesson plans, writing exemplar lessons, actually word for word what the teacher is going to say, word for word what you expect the student response to be, evaluating student work, and when you're not getting the student work that you want, you go back to the plan and decide, did I instruct it well? Do I need to tweak my lesson plan? And really getting down to that kind of level of lesson planning and practice. And then to monitor aggressively. As teachers work the room, are they monitoring how kids are performing on each set that they're monitoring? That's what we consider monitor aggressively. Then when they have those data sets, are they actually using the data sets to plan the campus-based professional development that their teachers need, which is another really important piece to the whole process. We don't just train on what we think they might need, we train based on data so that they can actually improve their practice, which improves student outcomes. The next piece is the cultural leadership piece, which I talked about earlier. This is really routines and procedures, strong voice, teacher radar, really going down to minute-by-minute systems. And when I was with our group in Dallas, this was one of the first pieces that they learned, was think of one school process that you want to train on in professional development when your teachers get back. So some campuses chose either arrival or dismissal to school, or what happens in the first 5 minutes of every class. And they taught us to actually coach teachers in how to do that. And when they don't do it the way you want it done, you stop and you start over. You correct at the point of error, and then you start over and you practice again. You reset, you practice. And so that's part of this cultural leadership piece that I know a lot of campuses are seeing a lot of success with. All this to say that it's really critical. We know, and we know we're not where we want to be. We do feel like this get better, faster work, which is also based off the work. If you remember last year, we read Leverage Leadership, Paul Bambrick Santoyo. Get Better Faster is another book by Paul Bambrick Santoyo. Our principal supervisors actually met him this summer in person and got to spend 2 days with him. Really excited about the work, and really, mostly, I'm really excited because I think that this is the impact, this is the boost, this is the being the intentional about the best practices that have to happen in all of our classrooms for improved student outcomes. And going back to the adult convenience, this coaching model is not allowing adult convenience. This is the use of video, this is the use of scripting, this is the use of all of those tools that come together to really create great Tier 1 instruction for our kids. Any questions on Relay or any points maybe to clarify?
Is it fair to say that these tools are being discussed as part of the professional learning communities on these campuses?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you asked that, because you know, professional learning communities are the systems in which that's the way we do work in Midland ISD. And so when those systems are good and in place, it allows these kinds of conversations to happen naturally, these data-driven discussions. When we're looking at an exemplar of a lesson plan, our collaborative is already set up in a safe place and in a good way to actually evaluate that exemplar. When you bring your student data and I bring my student data and she brings her student data, we already have the system in place to evaluate how those look against the exemplar. So the PLC process is the system in which we will continue to do work because it's the right way to do the work. What it allows is this kind of intentional part of the process to be student outcome driven.
Anything else, Board? All right, that sounds great, Mr. Rivera. Thank you. We're excited about the program. Thank you for all your work on it. All right, District Report 6D, Facilities Update. Mr. Riggin, welcome.
Good afternoon, Board President Davis, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Kale. I would like to take just a couple of minutes and update you on where we are on three topics. The first one is, it was interesting to see where our community is heading in the consent agenda. The Midland Community Development Corporation is showing where they're heading with our future housing for teachers and the commitment they have. This board has shown, though, the last several years, and most more recently, middle of this of July, your commitment to support teachers within our community. Just give you a quick housing update for our district-owned housing. We have 20 units that are, all 20 are full of teachers in our Stonegate housing unit. We have 20 modular home units there. There are 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes that are full. In July of this year, the board purchased 2 apartment complexes for teacher housing. As of that time, upon occupying or obtaining those in July, we have 42 units that are still in those 2 complexes, total of 50 units, have 42 of those units that are still under lease to existing tenants under contract. We have 5 of those units that have been made ready, renovated, and are leased to new teachers. They're either been leased and occupied or in the process of being leased to new teachers. And then we have 3 units that are currently being renovated to obtain, to house future teachers. Looking ahead, we will have 4 to 6 units every month that will become available as leases cease and run out, and we will make those units ready and get ready to house additional teachers. So just a quick update of where that work is within the district on the board's efforts for housing for Midland teachers. Second item there is just the status of Ranchland Hills Golf Club. That contract has been signed by all parties. The work continues, and we look forward to closing on that property within 30 to 45 days. So that progress on that work continues and is moving forward, and look forward to closing early to last of next month. The last item there is the report on the district's effort to inform voters and staff within our community. Since the last board meeting, the board called for the bond election. Staff, board members, board president, community members have been hitting the community, civic groups, teacher organizations, teachers within schools to help try to educate what is included in the bond. And when I counted today, the staff, board members have made presentations to 26 different organizations, civic groups, teacher groups, PTAs, various other organizations within our community, within our organization, to help educate our community on what is included in the 2019 bond and why the need for what is included in the bond. Just wanted to report that we will make efforts and are willing to expand our ability to meet with any civic group, any businesses, any group that is willing to listen to the educational aspects of the bond and what is included in the bond. We will make ourselves available to make those presentations.
And it's correct to say that on our MISD website, there on the top, one of the tabs is Bond 2019, is that right?
That's correct.
And then if you click on that tab, there are a number of different options that you can click to get additional information about the specifics of the bond, including a frequently asked questions page, a complete copy of the report from the Citizens Committee that they presented to the board on July 22nd. And those kind of materials are available on the website. Is that right?
That is correct. Our communications department is working literally day and night to help get the work out and get the message out about what is included in the bond to make everyone that is willing to hear and listen of the facts concerning the bond.
Meanwhile, while it's not in the Bond 2019 tab, you know, all our board meetings are videotaped and available under the school board tab under meetings. And if you want to see the presentation by Ronnie Scott on behalf of the Citizens Committee, that's been videotaped. It is part of the July 22, 2019 meeting. And I think his presentation begins at minute 10 seconds, I think, if folks can go there and see the oral presentation of that report as well.
Yes. That ends my report. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Well, I don't have a question, but I wanted to make a comment. Listening to Ms. Rivera talk about the relay work, listening to Mr. Riggin talk about teacher housing, and knowing I don't see Mr. Bailey on the agenda here to talk, but there's some very important pieces of information, and I love the graph that Ms. Rivera had that showed the great advantage of having a strong teacher leadership for 3 years in a row. But somewhere at this point, we've got to blend that culture on our campuses so that those teachers are happy and they want to be back, and they want to be back for year 2, and they want to be back for year 3, and we start building that graph where we can make that happen. And Ms. Bailey, I'm not calling you out, but I'm just saying we're putting things in place. We've got to have campuses that feel the environment that our teachers want to be there and want to grow. And so I think it's just so important that we start making the connection. If it's the boxes where teachers can give suggestions, where are we on the boxes? If it's not the boxes, if it's just the leadership, and I think that based on what we just heard from leadership, we're going to have the right leadership on our campus to want those teachers to grow. But we've got to make that jump, because until we do, we are not going to see the growth we want in any of these goal progress measures or goals. And so I just think it's important sitting here and listen to all the things we're doing, and as a board and as a school district, all the hard work you're putting in. We've got to make that connection now. And it's time, because every year we sit here, we're 2 years down the road now, and we're not making the connection. It's time. And we've got to get serious about how we do this and how we go about growing our students and making it the priority. So I just wanted to preach a little bit, but that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, amen.
Thank you.
Mr. Riggin, thank you. All right, next, District Report 6E, Innovation Update. Ms. Kale would refer us to page 238 of our meeting packet for information regarding that. Next, we'll turn to our single action item for the evening. 7A, consider adoption of the 2019-2020 tax rate. Information is on page 241 of our meeting packet. And Ms. Moss?
Just a little bit. The 1920 budget was adopted by the board in June. It was adopted based on a maintenance and operations tax rate of 1.05005. The rate for maintenance and operations is 0.97005, and the rate for interest and sinking is 0.08. The proposed rate was advertised in the MRT on June 14, 2019, and I will note that this rate includes a 7-cent reduction to the M&O rate as required by House Bill 3. MISD administration recommends approval of the ordinance setting the total tax rate for 1920.
So the M&O rate is 7 cents less than last year's rate, and the INS rate is the same as last year's rate. Is that correct?
Correct.
I make a motion to adopt a maintenance and operations tax rate of 0.97005 and an interest and sinking tax rate of 0.08 for a total tax rate of 105,005 per 100,000 valuation.
All right, a motion by Mr.
I'm sorry, I need you to say the rest of that as well.
This tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate.
Thank you.
With a reduction, as Mr. Davis noted.
And motion by Mr. Trischetti, second by Mr. Fuller. The reason why the lesser rate raises more revenues is because of the increase in property valuations, most notably the mineral valuations. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And they went up what in a single year for this?
95.2%.
95.2%. Meanwhile, our Robin Hood invoice payment, as it's now called Chapter 49 recapture, increased from last year to this year from what to what?
Last year we paid in $64 million. This year we're estimating $132 million.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boss. All right, it is now 6:50 p.m. and we will go into closed session in accordance with Section 551.071 through .074 of the Government Code, as well as Section 551.076 and .0821 through .084. And we will have two action items arising from closed section regarding two teacher contract abandonment cases. Thank you all. Thank you for coming. 7:43 p.m. and we are coming out of closed session to address our final two action items. The first is action item 9A, teacher contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation. And 2, complaint and request for sanctions to TEA regarding M. Garcia.
President Davis, board members, we're presenting M. Garcia for sanctions. Realizing good cause did not exist for resignation and for during the exit survey.
I so move.
Motion by Mr. Trischetti, second by Mr. Fuller. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Action item 9B, administrator contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation. And 2, complaint and request for sanction to TEA regarding L. DeVilliers. Is that how you say it correctly?
Yes, L. DeVilliers. And I'm recommending that we pursue sanctions with TEA against the administrator's certificate, realizing just cause was not presented for resignation.
Motion by Mr. Bishop. Second by Mr. Fuller. Any discussion or comments or questions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. It is 7:45 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you very much.